So this is a special segment for Retroality. It's one of our memory segments. We did it previously for video game rentals. This one is not directly video game related, but we feel that it does have some pertinence to the gamer culture. It's Saturday morning cartoons. Now, being the oldest member of the portable crew, my time machine goes back a little farther. So I kind of want to talk about how it went, and we know how it is now with the cartoons, but basically when I was a kid, very young, cable TV wasn't commonplace yet, and when I was really young, it really just didn't exist yet. So you got cartoons. They would show them on your UHF channels. We used to have those, because the channels, you change them with a knob. The remote control was probably the kid that lived in the house, and their parents told him change that channel. So you would get cartoons that came on generally in the morning before you would go to school, and you would get them later on in the afternoon when schools started letting out for the different grades, so early afternoon into when it would become evening, like 4 or 5 o'clock, and then they'd start showing other shit on the TV. So Saturday cartoons were a big deal because that was when you really got to see cartoons. The stuff they showed during the week were reruns, old cartoons that have been shown over and over and over again. So the stuff you were seeing on Saturday was like brand new stuff. So pretty much for me, a Saturday morning, for as far as I can remember back, you get up as early as possible, you go to the room with the TV in it, you'd sit down with a big fucking bowl of cereal, shovel it down, and start watching cartoons. The cartoons kind of ran from like 7 or 8 until 11 to noonish type time, so you had a good solid chunk of cartoons. Your major stations, ABC, NBC, and CBS, which were 3, 6, and 10 in my area, they all ran them. So you had to pick what cartoons you were going to watch because you couldn't tape shit, you couldn't DVR it, none of that shit was really around yet. So you had to pick what your favorite ones were, or you had to stagger it every week and say, watch this and this, or you had to have 3 TVs in the same fucking room. So anyway, we'd get up, we'd turn on the TV, and usually before the real cartoons came on, there was local programming that was aimed at younger viewers. And not all the shit that came on Saturdays, programming-wise, was the proper cartoons. Like some of it were like people interacting with puppets, or puppets by themselves interacting with each other, or people like with the Croft Superstars. They're people interacting with people in like puppet suits, people dressed up as characters. Then you couldn't see any of their face, and you imagine that they were really what they were and not just a person in a fucking suit. So you'd sit there, you'd get up, have your snack, and watch cartoons all fucking day. I can think, back with the 80s, because I started in the 70s watching them. It was pretty much like I just described. By the 80s, you started noticing that during the week, some channels had new content. In the 80s in particular, the cartoons really started changing because you'd have cartoons based off of famous movies, cartoons based off of famous toys based off of other cartoons. It was a lot about money. In the 90s, it even went further with that kind of thing, and I guess near the end of the 90s was when you were starting to see it more and more, cartoons being more readily available. In the 80s, USA, which I don't know if it still fucking exists or not on cable, they had a thing that was called the Cartoon Express that they played every day. When you got cable, you got more channels that showed more cartoons. But again, a lot of them were old cartoons that were being shown over and over again. Early on with Nickelodeon, they were just showing shit that imported from Canada or England and stuff like that. And it wasn't until a long time until they made like the Ren and Stimpy and Rugrats and Real Monsters and that whole slew of stuff that they were actually making original content. And that stuff may have ran on Saturdays, but it ran all week too. By the end of the 90s, we had Cartoon Network. So you could sit down and watch cartoons all day, every day. And some of it was old shit, but most of it was brand new content that was being filmed particularly for that channel. So you got all these new channels. And nowadays, when you turn on the TV on the mornings, on Saturdays, what you got is fucking shit. I have a theory as to why they never stopped doing it, even though the cartoons are garbage now, at least in my opinion, you know. They seem to be geared more towards young people, like particularly young people, like young preschool age or elementary school at the highest level. Things like online with the Magic Bus and stuff like that. Educational, positive message type cartoons. And really, the cartoons that were around previously, prior to that, they may have had more of an entertainment value to them, but they really weren't overly violent. They tended to have a moral message behind them. So I don't really see what the deal is with all these baby cartoons. Now I want to go over, I have a short list with me of some of the cartoons over the years that I watched on Saturday that I really looked forward to. So I'm going to go on with that. First off, at the very tippy top, probably my favorite cartoon that existed before I was alive and is still around, that would be Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo, everybody watching this knows that. I always say that Hanna-Barbera, who handled Scooby-Doo forever, they had two formulas. There was the family formula, which was like what they did with the Flintstones, and they just take it and they move it to other genres. So we go, this is a family in the prehistoric age, that's the Flintstones. Now let's have this family and their hijinks in the future, and there's the Jetsons. And they did it with a whole lot of other shit too. Scooby-Doo is the mold of a bunch of kids with some kind of anamorphic creature, generally an animal, but in Speed Buggy it was a car that could talk, you know, and that usually presents the comic relief. Scooby-Doo being scared at everything, Speed Buggy being scared at everything. A lot of cartoons did that too. Josie and the Pussycats was the same way. There's a few more on the list that I'll get to. Now a little later there was DuckTales. DuckTales didn't start as a Saturday cartoon, but eventually it was in the run of their Disney Saturday morning shit. Now, here's a good example of something that crossed over good from the big screen, the real Ghostbusters cartoon. When the Ghostbusters movie came out, they made a cartoon called Ghostbusters. It was based off of a television show, both of which were made by Filmations. The show was from the 70s. It had nothing to do with the movie. When they made the movie, they had to do something to be able to use the name. And these people came back and made an animated version of their old show, probably to cash in on the popularity of Ghostbusters. So Ghostbusters, the movie franchise, decides we're going to make a cartoon too and call it The Real Ghostbusters. And it was the real deal. It was a good fucking cartoon. Super Friends. DC always had some kind of derivative of what is now Justice League running on Saturday mornings. They were always some of my favorite cartoons. You got a whole bunch of their famous heroes all in one team, all doing shit together. On the flip side, with Marvel, you have the Amazing Spider-Friends, which did, it was focusing on Peter Parker, who lived in a room, or, you know, he had his own apartment with, two other young heroes, one being Iceman, Bobby Drake from the X-Men, and another was another mutant that was original that was called Starfire. Her deal was fire, obviously. So you had a Spider-Man and you had ice and fire. Not a cartoon, but Pee-wee's Playhouse was another favorite of mine. Live action, crazy. The dude The only thing that it lacks being a cartoon is the actual animation. The show was very much like a cartoon. It was fast-paced, crazy, just silly humor. Pretty good. An early 80s one that I dug pretty good was the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. In hindsight, for me watching it later, it hasn't stood the test of time as much as I thought it was, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be watching it as an adult. The Blue Falcon and Dynamite. Here's another one of those kind of almost Scooby-Doo scenarios. Blue Falcon was a hero. He was very serious. He was a made-up superhero. Well, they all are, but this was something made up from Hanna-Barbera, who doesn't typically do that. And Dynamite was a robotic, type bionic dog who, you kind of think of if Inspector Gadget was a dog. He kind of has like robotic parts, and he's a fuck-up. And he's your laughter part. You laugh at him. A long-standing one was Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner Hour. Basically, it was showing classic Warner Brother cartoons with newer bumpers and segments and even a few cartoons thrown in there. So you're getting old school shit that you always grew up on and loved, and you're getting to see it in a new format with all kinds of stuff going on. Fat Albert and Cosby Kids. This was another one of my real favorite cartoons. It originally started before I was born too, probably. It was interesting in that it, from the get-go, it was educational, but the education in it never took away from the cartoon. Like, it wasn't preachy. It was just part of the things. You learned something in the show, and you didn't really realize that somebody was teaching you something. The 80s, with their cartoons, they did a lot of stuff where at the end of the show, they do a PSA. And basically they'd say, in today's show, we learned about teasing people, and teasing people isn't nice, or something to that effect. But this one kind of just mixed it right in, and you didn't really see that kind of shit. Another live-action series, The Croft Super Show, or sometimes it was The Croft Superstars. This was where Land of the Lost came from. It had some other stuff, H&R Puffin stuff, and Sigmund the Sea Monster, where you were having live actors dealing with people either in costumes or actually in like a puppet suit. Land of the Lost, of course, being the most famous. The original show was way better than that fucking shitty movie. And speaking of Croft Brothers, before they had their whole deal and started doing their own shows, they created suits for Hanna-Barbera and made yet another one of my favorite children's shows. Was the Banana Splits. The Banana Splits were a rock group of men or women, whatever, in puppet suits. They were all animals. You had a dog and an elephant and a lion and some fucking other thing. And it was kind of the early thing with Hanna-Barbera having music in their cartoons. They did that. They did it a lot with Josie and the Pussycats. Early Scooby-Doo had rock music too, though those characters weren't actually playing it. But they did it a lot. I guess it was trying to cash in on things, Cartoon people are just as smart as everybody else. Another crossover for movies that I really enjoyed was the Beetlejuice cartoon. It took liberties with the story, but it was really well done. I think Elfman did the music for that too. The theme was based off of the movie thing, but it was fucking amazing. It was better. Somehow that worked better as a cartoon than as the movie. It basically focused in on Beetlejuice and his friendship that didn't really happen in the movie with Lydia Dietz, who is Winona Ryder's character in the film, and their monster friends. Beetlejuice's friends from the netherworld, and they interact with them. Sometimes he comes into our world, sometimes he goes into there. And it's fucking crazy. It was a good cartoon. Lastly on my list, not that these are all the cartoons I like, they're just some of the ones that were jumping out at me. The TMNT cartoon, the original one that came out in the mid-'80s, which also, I believe, actually really wasn't a Saturday morning cartoon to start off with. But the comic books it was based off of were much darker, and the cartoons were more reminiscent of the early films where they were fun-loving, joking, pizza-eating fucking hooligans that could just kick fucking ass. So it put a fun spin on something that was a little more serious. It really, I feel like kids are missing out in a way. There's nothing wrong with me thinking, I think there's nothing wrong with the Cartoon Network and Nicktoons and the ill-fated Toon Disney, which they very foolishly got rid of. But there was something special about not really getting cartoons all the time. I don't know. I appreciate the Cartoon Network. I don't know if people appreciate cartoons as much when they get to watch them every day. And, personally, I think it's a good thing that they're showing cartoons all the time, because it was a fucking drag when I was a kid having to wait to see the new cartoons on Saturday. And pretty much that's my say on it. I've had much longer than a minute this time. This has been Mr. Mojo's Minutes. So, back to you guys.
What's up, guys? Portable D here, bringing you my cartoon memories from when I was a kid. I'm going to start with some before school cartoons that I used to watch. When I lived with my grandma, I would watch both of the Sonic series. The one with Scratch and Grounder and Tails, and also the one with Sally and Bunny Rabbit and shit like that. I also used to watch this cartoon called Botsmaster. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I believe it was about this guy who had a bunch of robots, and they fought against like evil robots. I had honestly forgotten about this cartoon until I was browsing my friend Jay's channel, the guy who owns photographsbyday.com. He's got the intro for it on there, and I remembered little bits about it, but I used to watch those when I lived with my grandma before school. When I lived with my mom, I would watch Samurai Pizza Cats, which is 3 cats who I think worked at a pizza parlor, and then they were like superheroes, I think, and then they like had all these like fucking machines and like vehicles and stuff like that. They were like kind of like superheroes and fighting against bad guys. And I remember I was actually such a fan of that one, though. I mean, I can't remember much of it nowadays, but I remember I used to actually sit and like draw up the cats and shit when I was in school and shit. So I also remember watching the Mega Man cartoon. It was it was mostly based off of the first one, which was you had like Iceman, Fireman, Cutsman, Gutman, Electman, and Bombman. And then there were occasionally villains from like later Mega Man games and shit, so it kept it fresh by adding a new bad guy here and there. And then I remember to me the best thing about it was when they actually introduced Mega Man X, which it was also at the same time kind of a disappointment, because it was just a much taller Mega Man. They didn't have like the white armor and all this, all that other shit that he ended up getting when Mega Man X came out. So it was a little disappointing with that, but it was still kind of cool, because now they're trying to take 2 different Mega Man series and bring them together. Even though Mega Man X, I don't think ever actually got his own cartoon series. I could be wrong, because I mean that may have been what the other Mega Man series was about. And I'm not talking about like the fucking Battle Network, but there was actually another Mega Man series that came out a little bit later. And then now we're gonna move on to the Saturday morning. I used to watch all the Mario series, like the Mario Brothers Super Show, Mario 3, Mario World. Even used to watch Legend of Zelda. As a matter of fact, I have all of the Mario Brothers Super Show episodes and the Legend of Zelda episodes on DVD. I also used to watch this cartoon called Captain N, the Game Master. It's about this kid who got like sucked into Video World, and he's got to save it from Mother Brain from Metroid, the Eggplant Wizard. I believe he's from Kid Icarus, and King Hippo from Punch Out. And he's teamed up with this chick, Princess Lana, I don't think she's actually from anything. If she is, I can't find out from what. Also, Mega Man, who was a midget smoker. Kid Icarus. I believe his name is actually Pit, but I believe they called him Kid Icarus in the cartoon. He had to add like Icus to the end of like everything he said. Kind of like how Mega Man had to put Mega on everything. Like everything was Mega this and Mega that. So both of those characters were really annoying. But the worst one was actually Simon Belmont. And this is where I got really kind of pissed off with the series, because he is an egotistical, vain asshole whose sole purpose is to look out for himself and try to get in Lana's underwear. Now, I was a big Castlevania fan as a kid, so when I found, when I'm watching this and I was like, oh, that's Simon Belmont. Well, okay, he looks different. I guess you kind of had to expect that, but then as I found out more about him, I was like, I can't believe they took someone like Simon Belmont and did this to him. There was also a cartoon called Mighty Max, and that was about, there was like these little flip things, kind of like Polly Pocket had, I think's what it was, and the figures were like this fucking tall. I mean, they were fucking small as piss, and eventually they came out with a cartoon for it where his hat was like, it could open up gateways to different worlds and shit like that, and they would go fight all these bad guys. They introduced some new characters for the cartoon, which were later introduced as toys. There was like this little, like, old owl thing called Virgil, and then there was like this big buff sword-wielding motherfucker named Norman, who was a complete badass. But as a kid, I think my favorite cartoon would have probably had to have been Bucky O'Hare. Simplest way to put that, the Toads come up with this like supercomputer. It's basically Mammals versus Toads. The Toads come up with the supercomputer. It goes haywire or some shit, takes over the planet, and basically turns all the Toads evil. So now they just want to enslave the Mammals and rule the universe. Well, the Mammals are kind of united and fighting against them, and I guess you could say like the main crew that deals with this shit is led by a green rabbit named Bucky O'Hare. He's got this this cat named Jenny who's got like psychic powers. The baboon gets like sent somewhere else and in like the first episode, and then gets exchanged for this human named Willie, who's like a genius. And then there's this little one-eyed robot named Blinky, who's kind of a little pussy. And then you got the four-armed duck named Deadeye, who apparently used to be like a space pirate, and now he's like a good guy type thing. He was voiced by Scott McNeil, who did a bunch of voices that you guys might recognize. I think he did Piccolo and Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z. He did Koga in Inuyasha. He did Duo in Gundam Wing. Oh, and he did Dinobot in Beast Wars, which was actually another one I used to watch at my mom's. That one was more or less on when I was getting ready to head out the door, so I never caught a whole bunch of it. But yeah, he did like a whole bunch of shit. If you want to know what all he did, just fucking IMDb him. It's a really big list, if I remember correctly. Now, about the time I started getting out of Saturday morning cartoons, the last thing I was watching was the original Yu-Gi-Oh series. But at the time I started watching it, it was not. It was more of an after-school cartoon that played. It's like when Toonami came out, every other channel decided they had to have something similar to that. Well, the channel I watched was like the WB, and it had Yu-Gi-Oh playing after school. So that was like the last one I watched before I really got out of cartoons, but recently, having actually become a brony, I actually do watch the My Little Pony cartoon. I got into it about halfway through season 2, I believe. And currently have all 3 seasons. Trying to get Equestria Girls, but I can't really find it. But yeah, that's really it for my cartoon memories. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a different angle of cartoons from the same generation, because me and C are obviously from the same generation, so we're going to show you 2 different angles where I watched mostly like more or less the gaming cartoons that were out, as well as some that were geared more towards boys. We're going to give you the non-gamer angle of it, of cartoons that were out in our generation. So, yep, that's it.
Hey, Portable C here, and when I was younger I watched cartoons that definitely differentiated from the ones Portable D watched. I was born a year later than him, but still in the same generation, but
3 months.
No one cares.
Oh, it's on 3 months.
No one cares. Anyways, my first cartoon that I ever watched was, believe it or not, it was a cartoon geared towards boys, but I was more into the action stuff. I'm a tomboy, so I watched He-Man. It was almost like Conan the Barbarian, but it was about this dude named Prince Adam, and he was kind of like a wuss, but
he was a pussy.
He was a lot more braver than some people would give him credit, especially the newer version that they came out with for He-Man. But he was given the ability to protect his homeworld by the sorceress. He was given the sword of power, and by, you know, saying, I have the power, he'd be able to transform into He-Man and his...
Interesting fact about that. A lot of people were actually pissed off with the newer version of the sorceress. And when they came out with like the... It was like, I think like 2002 or 1.
It was like the 2000...
Yeah. A lot of people were... Just so you guys know, a lot of people were actually pissed off about that because they reduced her boob size.
Yeah. It's only because of fanboys. They don't know how to stop being perverts for any cartoon character that's a female.
I was pissed because it was completely different.
I didn't like it because it made Prince Adam more of a wimp than he originally was. I mean, he had his moments. He was more lazy than anything. When he was training with Teela, he would spend most of the time going off with Cringer to go fishing and take like little naps by the lake and daydream. Now,
you know that was just a farce though, right? He was actually trying to get some booty from the sources.
anyways, I wish I could do this kind of irritation with him when he does his stuff.
You can.
I choose not to. I choose to be respectful. The next cartoon I watched was, believe it or not, it was the sister show to He-Man. It was She-Ra. It actually dealt with Prince Adam's twin sister, Adora, who was kidnapped. And they go into more details on that with the movie that came out called He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword, where he had to go and find the girl, or this person who was meant to have the sword protection. And the sources had full plans for him to find his twin sister. She was found in our dimension, on a whole another world, where she had been brainwashed from the time she was a baby to serve the Horde. And yes, that name sounds like it'd be really, really bad. You stop and think about it. Yeah, that would actually be kind of fitting just because of how it sounds. Anyways, upon meeting Adam as He-Man, she started to come out of her brainwashing trance and realize who she was. So she became She-Ra, the Princess of Power, to help fight off the Horde. And there were a couple times where they did crossovers between either one of the shows where they would work together.
Actually, if I remember correctly, when they show like the movie like in theaters or something,
Yeah, I believe actually it was in
And then
theaters
when they
at the
brought it
time.
to TV, it was a multi-part thing, which was actually kind of different than the movie.
Yeah, I actually have the episodes, the movie on DVD where they cut up into different episodes. And if I've watched the movie and I've watched the ones where they've had on DVD as episodes, there were a lot of scenes that were in the episodes that were not in the movie. So it was kind of really bizarre and odd for me. And I had just seen the episodes about like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. But I'm a huge She-Ra and He-Man fan. Another cartoon I used to watch was actually based off a movie called Teen Wolf. I don't know if anyone's actually familiar with, and no, I'm not talking about the lame ass remake that they're doing. It's a TV series on MTV where, if you ask me, it just looks like it ruined and killed how Teen Wolf was supposed to be. It was
one of those weird 90s cartoons.
It was funny, more than anything. His whole entire family could transform into wolves. He had a best friend who's a normal girl and a normal guy, and he had a crush on a cheerleader who basically would not give him the time of day at all. And he finally came to his senses, like, you know, okay, I have a crush on my female best friend. I don't really know what went on from there because, if I remember correctly, the series didn't really last all that well.
And kind of like how Bucky O'Hare was only like 13 episodes. Same with The Legend of Zelda.
That was a huge disappointment on that end, because he got me in the Bucky O'Hare and The Legend of Zelda, so that was a huge disappointment. Another cartoon that was based off of a movie that I actually watched on Saturday mornings was Back to the Future. And it was at that time it was funny, but now when I go back and able to catch places that have those cartoons up, I kind of look at it and see, wow, it's really, really ridiculous. I mean, it's like any other typical cartoon. No real plot, no real storyline, just meant to be goofy, random moments, crazy stuff happens.
As Mojo stated with the D&D cartoon in his segment, some cartoons just don't hold up.
No, and the Back to the Future cartoon did not hold up at all to the movies. And I like all three of the Back to the Future movies, but I'm really not a fan of the third one all that great. I've kind of been...
We will get into the movies, though.
Yes, we do.
We will be doing a movies-themed episode.
I'm looking forward to that. Another one that I actually really enjoyed watching was another one that was also based off of movies, was The Real Ghostbusters. And believe it or not, my two favorite Ghostbusters were Ray and Peter at that time. Why, I don't know. I just like those two. But that was actually more towards like the 90s when we had a channel called Fox Family Channel. When it first came out here, and on Saturday mornings they were showing The Real Ghostbusters. And I think also at that time they were also showing the cartoon for like maybe every once in a while. Oh no, it was only on Halloween, during the month of Halloween, that they showed the Tales from the Crypt cartoon. I really could not get into that one. I watched maybe 1 or 2 episodes, can't really remember.
Okay. You were talking about the DuckTales movie?
Yeah, sorry about that everyone. The camera kind of died on us, but...
Battery died, and then it turned out the card was full, so I had to take off some shit.
So yeah, it was a competition of 2 things. But anyways, I was talking about the DuckTales movie. Like I said, as I got older with the DuckTales movie, I thought it was pretty lame as I got older. Looking back at it now, but as a kid, I really enjoyed it. In some ways it made sense, and in other ways it's like, what the hell was Disney thinking? Then I think that about a lot of things Disney does nowadays anymore. I can't stand the Disney Channel. It's basically a sellout channel now. That's just my opinion. So you don't have to like it, and I really don't care if you don't like it or not.
Disney took it up the butt.
They hate gays. They're anti-gay. But another cartoon I really...
Actually, I thought they supported them now.
No, they're against gays.
I know Walt Disney was like...
They also don't like Jews.
Yeah, I know Walt Disney himself hated fucking Jews.
Yeah, that was a little known fact in case no one knew. He hated Jews.
Robot Chicken did spoofs on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if anyone's watched Robot Chicken, you guys may have caught that. But anyway, there was one particular cartoon that I went out of my way to watch on Saturday mornings. Not to mention go out and rent from Blockbuster. Hence a little get back to our video store memory type thing. It was Gem and the Holograms. It was a cartoon based on and geared towards women, girls. About a girl named Jerica Benton who had just lost her father. And the first episode, they were, at his funeral, and she was found out her foundation for foster girls was basically sinking fast. They didn't have any way of supporting and keep it up and running. She did not like the idea of these girls being placed in separate foster because everyone in there was like a great big huge happy family. It's like
actually, I did have a problem with that whole plot though.
And what was that?
Okay, her dad dies. She owns a record company, but she's so fucking broke she can't support a foster house.
It's because it's the one. Here's this. She didn't get ownership of it until her dad died, and she was only part owner because his old buddy ran and held everything and refused to give her any more money for the Starlight
I forgot about
Foundation.
that part. Never mind.
Hence is why she went out of her way to try to figure out and come up with different ways to help keep Starlight Foundation running. Well, there was a gift that was meant to be given to her, and it was found by her sister Kimber, who basically is more like the rebellious one of the group. And it was a pair of earrings. They were really bizarre star-shaped ones. And it led her, a hologram appeared to her named Synergy. And basically the Synergy kept telling her to follow, so they all did it. And they went to this like old abandoned drive-in theater where they could go, and she showed them all these really cool things that her dad left behind for them. And upon looking at the instruments and a badass looking old style car, yes, I'm a huge fan of the like classic cars. But they decided to use the instruments to form a rock band, and because of Synergy's powers, Jericho was able to take on a hologram image of a different persona, different person altogether, and she became Gem. They formed Gem and a hologram.
Think Pinkie Pie in human form.
No, do not think Pinkie Pie in human form, because Gem is actually smart, whereas Pinkie Pie is actually...
No, I'm talking looks only.
Oh yeah, pink hair and the bizarre, like, eyeshadow and everything, but...
All pink!
No one cares. And I have to admit, even to this day, I still like popping in the DVD. I have seasons 1 and 2, and actually season 3. And if anyone's not familiar, but any girls out there who might have been a fan of Gem and Holograms and didn't catch all of it, it ended at season 3 at the very end. The last little girl who was a foster girl, she actually found her real dad thanks
Chinese
to...
or Korean or whatever.
Her name's Bonnie. And
she's like Chinese or Korean or some shit.
Yeah, I don't remember what her nationality was. I know that she was one of the cool girls.
She was some kind of Asian.
Yeah, but she was a cool Asian. I like Bonnie, especially when she had her own little singing parts, when she was basically, in her own eyes, basically what a father should be. And, well, there's a lot of issues like that because she was also suffering from almost losing her vision in that episode. And they managed to get enough money together, got her operation fixed, and found her real dad, and it ended with her leaving the show with her dad, and it ended there. But also more on Gem and the Holograms, they have a rival band known as the Misfits. 3 wild, out of control, one of those little snobby ass Ringo, because the leader of the Misfits is named Pizzazz, and she is, in fact, a spoiled rich little girl because her daddy owns like any and everything in that town, and she gets her way at the simple whine or request. And then later on they gain a new Misfit member, so there ends up being 4, and there's this girl who also tries to be a Misfit. They call her Clash. She wears like little symbol like bracelets that she uses to cause this distraction for the holograms for each of the Misfit shenanigans, like just clapping her wrists together, and it gets on everybody's nerves. The holograms also lose a member, gain a new one during that, and then eventually the one member that left ended up coming back, so there's actually more holograms now. And Jericho is also in a, you can't really
God
call
damn
it a
it.
love triangle, but in a way you can, because her boyfriend's name is
Got
Rio,
it.
but he's also kind of fallen for her alter ego Gem, and he does not know, and put Miko down! Oh everyone, that's our little gerbil Miko. And yes, I call her that because I think it's cute, it fits her. She's just so adorable, look at her. She's saying hi.
I'm going to eat your soul.
Yowza. Sorry, I watched too much Death Clock. Especially with Squiscar being the retarded blonde.
Oh, and in case you guys have heard my phone go off a couple times, got
that's basically all I can really remember on Gem and the Holograms, is that it was pretty action-packed as well, in and out of itself, even being a cartoon geared for little girls. It was also one of those ones geared for little girls where it's like, you know, hey,
speak of the devil.
girls can be whatever they want when they grow up and have the power to do so and achieve it and succeed, and basically just, you know, that old believe in yourself routine, and things will work out fine even if there are, you know, little fallbacks. You just never give up and keep pursuing your dreams. That was basically the whole gist of Gem and the Holograms. And oh yeah, also at the end of season 3, the Misfits and the Holograms became friends, along with another rival band that was a rival between all three, which was the Stingers. I will not get into the Stingers, just because I can't stand them, and I refuse to talk about them. But all the songs are great. Like Portal D, I'm a huge fan of My Little Ponies, as you can see. However, I don't have anything against Generation 4, except for there's a whole lot of stupid drama in it that makes it look like a pathetic Japanese anime ripoff, which is my whole dislike for it. And I do like Rarity. I love her. But I cannot stand her prissy, snobby attitude. It really makes me want to take a sledgehammer and bash her upside the head with it. But that's just her person. Other than that, it's like you really don't see all that too much, because she goes out of her way to make her little sister happy. Goes out of her way.
If you want to get over your little pet peeves for each specific pony, watch Scootaloo for 5 seconds.
Yes. Kill Scootaloo. That pony should never have been created.
Her parents should be shot.
Yeah. I love Sweet Belle on her own. I love Apple Bloom on her own, and together those two are fine. But you get Scootaloo in it, you just really want to hate the Cutie Mark Crusaders with a passion.
Which I do.
But I grew up with Generation 1, with Wind Whistler, North Star, and where humans were actually around, and it wasn't Equestria. It was just it's at the other end of the rainbow is where the ponies lived. And Generation 1 was a lot better in my opinion. Granted, the ponies looked a little bizarre and odd, but I guess they're trying to make them look like actual ponies but still have that cartoon quality and cuteness to it that was also geared for little girls.
I think best way to put it, even the girl ponies look like they were super buff.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm sorry, they look like they could have been more like stallions. I mean, it's like they took Generation 1 ponies and made, you know, like Big Mac and Shining Armor, and Generation 4, which we have today. Yes, there have been 4 generations of My Little Ponies, because it went Generation 1, Generation 2, Generation 3, Generation 3.5. I couldn't really stand Generation 2 all that much. Why? Because unfortunately Disney took control of My Little Ponies at that point. And that's when things started getting really bizarre. However, they did keep everything going with the humans, like Megan, Danny, and Molly, the 3 humans that came to visit the ponies and help them out with any of their problems. And the main villains, yes, that's what I loved about the original My Little Pony. They never had main villains. It was the witches from the Volcano of Gloom. The main witch and her 2, yes, idiotic and clumsy daughters. The one daughter looked like a huge freaking beach whale. I mean, she was huge, man, and wore a pot on her head for a hat. The other one looked like she could have been Scarecrow's girlfriend or Scarecrow herself as a female.
Be right back.
Yeah.
We got food that's done. Alright, we're back.
And if you're talking about Generation 1, My Little Pony, that's what I grew up with. That's why I actually still prefer to this day. I'll go on YouTube and watch people who have uploaded some of the original ones. I did watch a little bit of Disney. It wasn't all that bad, I guess, in some ways, but... And they also introduced, as well as the Generation 1, male ponies, but they call them Big Brother ponies at that point. So, you think that mostly only girl ponies existed more than anything.
A lot of lesbianism.
Please don't say that about a little girl cartoon. Anyways, there was one other Disney cartoon that I liked at the time. It was called Gummy Bears. And yes, it was really bizarre, and I really don't remember too much about the Gummy Bears other than that, except for like Cubby.
I can tell you about the Gummy Bears. I can tell you about the Gummy Bears.
Anyways, we're not going to go into that at the moment.
Aww.
And no one wants to hear your smart ass.
Aww.
And oh wait, there was one other cartoon that I watched through Disney Channel, and it was Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
I remember that shit too.
I used to enjoy watching it every morning, even before I went to school, and on Saturdays. It was basically, you know, it was 6 days a week, because they didn't really show it on Sundays. So it was basically Monday through Saturday. I used to enjoy watching it. I used to watch it right before I walked out the door for school.
Gadget was the shit.
Oh yeah, she was. Of all her crazy inventions and stuff, a lot of them would work, and maybe like a small portion would backfire or work in another way. It still ended up benefiting them. And Monterey Jack was,
He was a fat ass.
yeah. And it was always fun watching Chip and Dale compete for Gadget's affections. I don't think it ever really went anywhere for either one of them, honestly.
No, I don't think it did.
Yeah, no, Sandy. Good kitty. Stay away from the food. Anyways, that's about really all. Oh yeah, I also used to watch Beast Wars. And going back to that, Scott McGill also voiced Rat Trap. But I didn't. It was way too early in the morning on Saturday morning, so I never really bothered to wake up at the really crack of dawn just to catch it. So yeah. But my favorite character from Beast Wars was Dinobot and Rat Trap, actually. Oh, and Cheetor. And that's about all I have from my memories.
Hey guys, I'm Dev. I love gaming, and Merry Christmas!
It's not Christmas. Why are you shooting me?
Merry Christmas!
Right?
Today we're talking about Saturday morning cartoons. Now, I was born at a time where Saturday morning cartoons weren't really a big deal anymore because you could watch cartoons every day. At least if you had cable. And most people did by now. So, I remember my elders, or my parents, or something like that, like people older in my family, they would always tell me about sitting in front of the TV, eating cereal, and watching a cartoon on Saturday mornings. And I was like, why is that so special? It's you can watch cartoons every day, and it'll be the same thing. But no, that wasn't the case 20 years before I thought that, because you could pretty much only watch cartoons when it was Saturday morning, and there was a big chunk of cartoons that you could watch, and they were a lot better than the cartoons that are on now. Nonetheless, I still was a kid, and pretty much all kids, unless they're like some sort of Catholic cult that's against cartoons, but all kids watch cartoons.
Word.
Thanks to older people in my family like my dad and reruns, I didn't just watch the shows that were coming out when I was a little kid. My first cartoon, along with a lot of other kids in my generation, was SpongeBob SquarePants. It was an over-the-top cartoon, sometimes a lot like Ren and Stimpy with the gross factor and the craziness, but it's gotten, I don't know. Well, let's just say this is how I used to like SpongeBob. Yeah. And this is how I react to SpongeBob now.
I want to play PlayStation!
Obviously, older quality cartoons either stopped being good cartoons or just got canceled all in all. I still don't think cartoons are dead. And no matter how angry my dog gets at Cartoon Network for changing their logo and not playing all cartoons anymore, I still have hope in cartoons. I mean, just look at South Park. It might not be a kid's show, but it's still a cartoon. Sort of. You just need the right creative minds to make a real cartoon with real quality content and funny jokes that'll make kids laugh for hours to make a quality cartoon and to basically save the cartoon industry? I guess that's what you would call it? So there you go. That's my point of view on the cartoons today and the change that it's gone through in the past few decades. I really think the cartoon industry can be saved with the right creative minds.
Okay, now we're talking about cartoons that you like to watch now.
Okay. Well, pretty much my favorite cartoon is Jerry's and pretty much.
Talk louder so it can hear you, Owen.
Okay, my favorite cartoon is Tom and Jerry and the second favorite is pretty much Teen Titans, the cartoon, Lego Show too, and Lego Show.
Alright, Mikey. What kind of cartoons do you like? What's your favorite cartoon?
What, Dad?
What's your favorite cartoon?
Tom and Jerry.
You like Tom and Jerry? What do you like on... What else do you like? What other cartoons do you like?
Robot Chicken.
Robot Chicken?